Shalom. Welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Romanich of Statewide News Service, jbiztechphilly.com. And as you can see here, columnist for the Jewish Press.
I'm having a lot of fun doing all of this. And I got to tell you, I talk about how government relates to the Jewish community, or doesn't, as the case may be. Well, my roots have been in broadcast journalism. And there's actually an Assemblyman who's with us today whose roots are also in broadcast journalism, a man after my own heart. This is Assemblyman Michael Blake from the Bronx. So welcome to the Jewish View. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Mark.
Maybe
Thank you,
Mark
Rabbi.
wants to run for the assembly.
Yeah, I'm saying,
maybe that's what he's leading
are we going to be changing careers right now? I feel a little bit of pressure right there.
But he does have a great voice. I mean, this deep baritone.
There are some benefits to that right there.
How is the Bronx doing? I just say I'm 29 years old, of course. But
there we go.
It
Exactly.
used to be the Bronx, or it's a place where it's depressed, and now it's like it's built up.
No, we have an incredible energy in the Bronx. Obviously, as you know, we have a significant Jewish community up in Riverdale, the northern part of the Bronx. But you look at the work that's been happening because of Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr., Speaker Carl Hasty from the Bronx, our new Chair Marcos Crespo. Incredible opportunities.
Who's an Assemblyman?
All in the last two in the Assembly. Our Assembly district, we're in the South Bronx. We have about 139,000 residents in the South Bronx in our district. And we have seen incredible progression. We have 91 schools, and we were able to get 10,000 free books to them because of the work with Tata Sons, Tata Consultant Services. Just the My Brother's Keeper initiative recently, $20 million to help boys and young men of color. We're seeing incredible progress. And people, I'm always saying often, yes, we're the home of hip hop and doo-wop and salsa and the Yankees. We're also the home of incredible entrepreneurs. We're the home of incredible diversity. Many people may not realize the Bronx is the most diverse county in the country. It's also the most democratic county in the country. And so we have a lot of responsibilities, but that's why our new hashtag is Building a Better Bronx, and that's what we're doing right now.
Now, Ted Cruz came to the Bronx, and he got booed. But do you know why he went to the Bronx?
Well, he got more than booed. I mean, the young people told him not to come as well.
But do you know why he came to the Bronx?
Well, I mean, look, there are some individuals that have a more conservative nature about them.
No, aside from Ruben Diaz Sr., who's from the Bronx, and he's got a very conservative view. But do you know why he actually came?
If you're asking what was his intent in coming, if that's your question.
Okay.
No, look, I think.
No, because it has to do with the delegates.
Well,
do you know about this, this formula?
So the formula of delegates is not just Bronx specific. So I just want to, that's why I want to space that out, right? So
but it's when you say it's the most democratic county,
yes,
it's because he has fewest Republicans in each of the congressional districts.
Yes, but
so if he wins any of the congressional districts that take in the Bronx, he gets the 3 delegates if he wins by more than 50%.
So again, so let me try it a different way. The likelihood of someone like a Ted Cruz doing well there is incredibly minimal when you look at someone like Donald Trump, who most polls have him up 30 to 40 points in the Republican primary. So if you're in the most diverse county, you're more than likely any Republicans that you do have there, which is a very limited number, are probably going to be a little bit more moderate and more understanding and have a greater connection to Trump than anyone else. I think
Cruz. I give him credit for trying.
So, he's being very thoughtful in his strategies. Obviously I reject pretty much everything that he is saying, as well as on the other side. But what we're seeing right now is an attention in the presidential primary in New York that we haven't had in decades. And equally, on the 19th, you're witnessing state Senate special election in Long Island, Assembly special election down in the city. There's an attention that's happening right now that many of us may not be used to, but we're excited about.
Well, it's interesting because I don't really bring up presidential elections or national issues on this show, but you have a background that takes you to President Obama. Could you please tell me about that and what that is all about?
In 2005, when I was a producer in Chicago for a TV station, Comcast Sportsnet, I started to feel that I needed to be able to help more people in a very practical manner. And when you think about my personal background, my family's from Jamaica. I was born in the Bronx. born with a heart murmur. I went to elementary school that was in Savage and Equality Children American schools. It was a tough upbringing. So for me, public service is a way to give back, and politics is a way to give back. So in 2006, I joined Senator Obama at the time, the Yes We Can training program, learned how to run campaigns. It gave me the opportunity to be able to grow and expand, go to Michigan, go run 3 state house races. And then in 2007, I went to Iowa. I was in Iowa March 3rd, 2007, first day, March 4th, 2007, for the caucuses. We won, fortunately. 10 more months, 7 more states. Ending the first campaign, then going to D.C. for the inauguration. Had a chance to work at the White House for 2.5 years. Directed state and local outreach, minority business outreach, African American outreach.
Under which department?
In Office of Intergovernmental Affairs and Office of Public Engagement at the White House. We created the Urban Entrepreneurship Summit Series. We went to 7 different cities around the country. Had public, private, partnerships that we did there. And then went back onto the re-election as the National Deputy Director for Operation Vote. And then it was time to come home then. So about 7 years spent in the Obama family and the Obama network, which I think we did transformational things.
He seems like you'd want to have a pizza or a beer with him. It seems like you'd want to be like, he's so approachable.
I have often felt that people realize the greatness of his intelligence, but they may not also realize just how great a person that he is.
Yeah.
And in 2008, when we were campaigning, and we were really trying to mobilize some more conservative Democrats in Michigan specifically, where Reagan Democrats, that term kind of emerges. Vice President Biden, then Senator Biden, said to a group, I understand some people may be hesitant about him, they may not know him well. Well, I watched him with his daughters and my granddaughters have a pizza party during the convention. And that showed me the content of him as a person.
Now go back a minute. Did you say your grand?
No, not mine.
Biden.
No, Biden's.
Biden's granddaughter.
Yeah, not mine.
Okay.
I mean, I have a few gray hairs, but
No, I'm like,
like,
wait a minute. You're too young for this. No, don't tell me that.
So
Okay.
it was it was another reminder of the content of him as a person. But again, it was time to come home. It was time to come back to the Bronx, come back to New York, and really help out in that way.
And you also ran New York City Public Advocate campaign.
In 2013,
In
yes.
2013.
For Reshma Sajani.
This is before you became an assemblyman.
Correct.
We have so many people and politicians on the Jewish View. And just recently we had someone from Albany, and there's the inner city, and they were bemoaning businesses, we're poor and no one's helping us and no business coming. Obviously you have a magic formula. I mean, you work for President Obama, number one, and number two, you see what the Bronx is, we said, built up.
Very much
What's
so.
the magic formula? Because it looks like Albany doesn't have it.
I think that it's multiple parts. One of the key bills that I worked on last year, probably our signature bill, with Senator Jack Martins in Long Island, was to pay small businesses that contract with New York State that are below 200 employees in 15 days instead of 30 days. That's a game changer, because if someone is not waiting to get paid, that means their employees are not waiting to get paid. And that allows for that transformation to happen there. You have to have access to capital. How can these businesses have access to the capital so that they can grow and expand their businesses? Access to the contracts. How can you actually grow and expand your opportunities when you get those access in that manner? It's multiple parts that happen there. And I think often we have to be cognizant of the environment that we're in. How do you create an environment for success? I think is a key part of our responsibility as elected officials. And so in our area where healthcare is critical, Bronx, Lebanon has a clinic, Montefiore has a clinic, I'm often thinking about health IT. When we're thinking about the transformation of jobs that are happening in the South Bronx, a lot of it is around technology. So last year we brought MSNBC, we did a Growing Hope special in the Bronx. We had 17 tech companies there to highlight how technology is present in the Bronx in a very real way. One of my recent conversations with Andrew Gross, who works for the Consulate General of Israel, was talking through how we can engage in technology and recognizing the opportunities obviously that are happening in Israel around entrepreneurship, around venture capital, around technology in that manner, and saying, look, we have a space here. We have entrepreneurs here and engaging in that way. So a lot of it is connecting people to the opportunity and making people understand, look, I have the resources, and whether it be these clients, these companies, these individuals, how do we take them to scale? So, when we partnered up with Senator Klein for Bronx Tech Hire, So that tech companies that were looking for support around certification saying, I would love to hire more people, but we have to have money to pay for the certification. Now they can partner up with the state through the Bronx Tech Hire and the Bronx Hire program so that that certification can be paid for. It was us finding all the different barriers and removing those barriers. And so we've been able to demonstrate that. You know, we're not just looking at retail jobs, looking at jobs beyond that. For me, it's about not someone just making a profit, it's about compensating a community. That's how we think about things. And our vision is called 3-2-1 of, you know, the 3 E's of economic development, education, equality for all, the 2 paths of minority and women-owned businesses becoming stronger so they can hire more people, a career-oriented education so someone can go from the cradle to the career, the one goal, make the South Bronx the urban metropolis of the world. And so if I create the educational system so that the training happens, if I create the business environment so that businesses want to stay and be there, if I focus on the equality and also the equity so there's greater fairness is happening, that's how the business community will be present. And then on top of that, focus on what we did this year, raising minimum wages, raise the different wages that are happening. All these things combined create the business environment for success.
You know, it's just back up a little, because around the Jewish view, I have to say something from the Talmud that says if you don't teach your child, your son, a craft, you're teaching him how to rob.
Yep.
They say, what do you mean teaching? You teach him how to rob? He says, well, if he doesn't have a job, what else is he gonna do?
Absolutely.
So just, I mean, another corollary of this is just that the crime rate's gonna go down. You give a person a job and a future, they're not gonna go into
Look,
to the criminal acts.
if you create the space for someone to have those economic opportunities, you derail the other thoughts that happen. You know, when people have idle energy, that's when bad things happen. And it's not that
And nothing
these.
good happens after 2 a.m.
Yeah, you know, look.
No, after 2 a.m.,
Well, not
nothing
just,
good happens.
well, not, you know, I mean, it's also in the afternoon. You look at a lot of the things that are occurring is because, you know, there's not enough opportunities for after school and those are training and vocational itself. So, you know, I often say, if a young person is standing on the corner and they may be doing things that are bad at that moment, it's not that that kid is a smart kid. They're a smart kid. They just may not have been accessed or directed to the right opportunities. And so our responsibility is how do you connect them? How do you have the career days? How do you have the immediate job fairs? How do you have the trainings that are putting them into the pipeline? How are you not just thinking about apprenticeships, but the journeyman pathway? All of those scenarios are creating the environment for success. The young people want to do well. It's our job to give them the pipeline to get there.
Excellent. All right, so it looks like you're doing an excellent job, though, with the Bronx, that's for sure.
We're trying. You know, I guess that's the minister in me, right? You know,
Everything that I see when I come down the Major Deegan, I mean, it's building and building, and, you know, it's just this impression I have that all of a sudden, you know, when Ruben Diaz, after he left the assembly, I mean, he had this vision, and his goal was to, and he's seeing his goal, he's, you know, reaching that.
it's happening.
It's happening. Your passion is housing,
Yeah.
because you're chair of the subcommittee on Mitchell-Lama. Could you first explain what Mitchell-Lama is? I know what it is, but I wanted you to explain it, because there's also Mitchell-Lama housing in Syracuse and pockets upstate, but really the Bronx is the hub of it.
Well, not just, I mean, the Bronx has a sizable portion. It's throughout the city, throughout the collective area. What are we doing on affordable housing, creating programs so that actually true middle income housing that's happening. We have it in Concourse Village. So we're working on legislation right now with Chairman Keith Wright on how is it easier for someone to apply for Mitchell-Lama and also to be aware of why they're rejected from Mitchell-Lama. It's our responsibility to say, if you really want to create a path for middle income housing and you want people to have sustained affordable housing, then we have to make sure people have more opportunities to get into that housing.
So what is Mitchell-Lama housing, and how did it get named Mitchell-Lama?
Well, you know, the naming came from the combination of the authors of the program, their respective last names, you know, from years ago. So these are dedicated sets of housing. City owns some portion, state owns some portion through HPD and HCR itself. Of how do we have dedicated units that focus on this middle income opportunity itself. So that's how we got there. What we need to be now engaging in is, you know, where do we go from here to keep people within Mitchell-Lama, keep them within affordable housing, which otherwise hadn't been happening without that support.
In this last budget negotiation, how did Mitchell-Lama housing fare?
Well, we're in the process right now. There's a $1.8 billion memorandum of understanding collectively for housing. So we're still going through those negotiations and those conversations right now. What do we need to do to ensure not just Mitchell-Lama, but affordable housing collectively, as relates to middle income housing especially, can grow and expand. But not just for middle income housing. NYCHA is a big priority of ours. We're the second largest population of NYCHA of anyone in New York City.
Housing Authority.
New York City Housing Authority itself. What are we doing to create more incentives for developers that are coming into our communities to allow them the opportunity to ensure that they are building developments that are keeping our residents there? A lot of the next steps over the next, say 6 weeks are going to be focused on housing, and in large part, what are we going to do around this $1.8 billion to make sure that our communities get the support that they need?
Let me ask you, because, I know from North Brooklyn, because Chabad is centered in Crown Heights, and my kids live in Brooklyn also, and if you say a house for $1 million, people laugh at you. They says, you can't even get anything for $1 million.
Yeah.
Even, in Bedford-Stuy and Brownsville. So what's the pricing market, which I don't know, in Bronx? I mean, it's like you just talked about affordable housing, $1 million, who can afford to
Yeah, well,
buy?
Riverdale's much different than the South Bronx.
Yeah,
also.
very much so. I mean, our average median income is only about $25,000. So it's and you have a lot of regulated units. I mean, there's great variance depending on where you're at itself. I mean, a lot of it is apartments and rentals. Which is why we're really trying to change the rules around the vacancy bonus, which is to me an absolutely terrible policy where a landlord and owner is able to essentially create incentives to kick you out, which is pretty much what they're doing in that manner. So there's variance in terms of the expenses. Our biggest priority has to be, though, what are we doing so that we're creating an environment so that residents have the protections that they need that they don't have right now?
Okay. I just want people to know that you're also a member of several other committees, including the Banks Committee, the Correction Committee, Election Law, Government Operations, Housing, which makes sense, and Veterans Affairs. Were you a veteran?
No, my oldest brother has just gone into his 29th year of service, Sergeant First Class. So it's a very personal priority for me. Two of my staffers are also vets.
How old are you?
33.
33, and your brother is?
Well, he's 50,
Okay.
54.
I was saying, if he's 20.
Yeah, there's a gap,
Okay. And you're a member of the Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian Legislative Caucus.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Second vice chair, so we've been able to do
Second
a lot
vice
of
chair,
a lot of good work.
In what, 2 years you're going to be president of that? or-
We're just focused on being vice chair
No,
right
no.
now.
Is there a pecking order?
No,
ranking,
it's
or-
each election happens separately. It's not a succession plan.
Oh, that's what I. Okay,
How many
that's
years
what I
have you
was-
been there now?
So this is my second year, my first term. So we just were elected last year.
Right.
All right, good.
And is it the dream now? Is this what you thought it was going to be?
I came in with very little expectation because it's very different to go from being a staffer to the principal. But I am incredibly happy. We have done very good work. We were focused on what are we going to do around housing. We were able to get about 2.2 million rather, for NYCHA development support, New York City Housing Authority, and also in this Mitchell-Lama bill. Economic development, we were able to work on MWB's efforts. Education, $16 million for our schools and our districts. We've done good work, so I'm excited.
MWB, Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprises. Right. It's an alphabet soup at the Capitol.
That's pretty much what it is all the time.
And I know what but so the Banks Committee is because you gravitated towards that? Or that
Well,
was
financial
given-
literacy has always been important to me. I was a senior
Financial
advisor.
literacy.
I was a senior
Okay.
advisor for Operation Hope, which is probably the leading nonprofit in the country around making people more understanding of their finances in that manner. So we have a project called Project 5117 that we're doing thanks to Operation Hope, which is focused on how to get 5 million young people to have financial literacy around the country. 1 million of those 5 million to become entrepreneurs themselves. The second one being 1,000 Hope Insight centers created within financial institutions so that people can start their businesses easier. And then the 7 is a 700 credit score. So we're going to be launching that out later this spring. Thanks to the work of Eric Ortner and their nonprofit, and other support we'll be having, Eric Kohler rather, and their nonprofit to be able to amplify it in that manner.
Okay, you're on the Correction Committee.
I am.
You have prisons in your district? Or you
we don't
just
have them
constituents who are in prison?
Well, I think unfortunately all of us have some representation, but
No, you're right. I mean, I know
yeah.
people. I visited friends in state prison and county jail, and but I'm just asking.
I mean, Khalif Browder, who was the focus of the Raise the Age campaign, was our constituent.
Oh, what do you think of that?
Well, it's inhumane that New York is one of two states in the country where 16 and 17-year-olds are still tried as adults, and so it goes against our morality, honestly. So, in large reason, it hasn't happened because Senate Republicans feel that they'll be allowing criminals to be running the streets, which is just simply not true. So that is a priority of us.
So the 16 and 17-year-olds, I think the governor is going to put them in Hudson Correctional Facility
Yeah, but that's
and
not
segregate them.
Yeah, that's not raising the age though. That's
No.
just moving.
That's a stopgap
Yeah.
measure, but it's somewhat palatable because at least they're not with adult criminals and they're not learning how to come back to prison after they're released.
Well, again,
They're
but
amongst them
we're
their own age.
presuming that they were criminals in the first place. Khalif Browder
that's true.
Khalif Browder was locked up for allegedly stealing a book bag, right? So we can't presume that these folks are criminals just because they're there.
You know what? There are so many people, I hear corrections guards and other law enforcement officials saying, yeah, the jails are full of innocent people. They're all saying they're innocent, and they were mocking them. But now with DNA, you see, maybe they were right, you know? Maybe these people are saying, I was railroaded and I shouldn't be here.
When I think about my reflections, I've been preaching for 21 years. And I've been fortunate to be in Israel twice. A lot of what goes to my mind is the morality of our decisions, right? And I truly do feel that again, it's inhumane and immoral that we allow this law to stay on the books in this manner. I think as it relates to criminal justice, raise the age, grand jury transparency, the special prosecutor, that, how do we make that statutory so that if an unarmed individual loses their life due to an officer, you have a special prosecutor jump in the exact same way. I think if someone attacks or kills a correctional officer, they should be prosecuted as well. We have to really ask ourselves, how are we serving the least of these, right? That's what we're taught to. And I think many times our policies aren't doing that, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy what I do.
Wow. So,
Just on the business point, just go back for a second. Again, I have to bring in a Talmudic statement because I'm the rabbi.
Yeah.
And it just says that, there's different levels of charity and helping people. But the best one of all, the Maimonides says, is giving someone a job.
Yeah.
Because if they have a job, then you don't have to feel like I'm a loser. I have to take charity and wealth from someone. Hey, I have a business.
Yeah.
I'm doing something.
Well, you don't just want to give them a job. You want to give them the training,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And you want to give them the opportunity, but make sure you give them the opportunity to succeed.
Excellent.
And with that, that's how you transform a community.
you're also on the election law committee.
I am.
Now, you have two bills, 6030 and 5922, which both say relates to voting rights. They both have the same short title. What are, I mean, I don't know if you.
We have several that have similar impact. Some are focused on increasing opportunity as it relates to absentee voting. Others are on creating more days for individuals to vote itself. We've pretty much had a stone wall that has come from the Republican side, to be very honest and transparent on that. My focus, I'm on the board for iVote, which is focused on how to have greater voting protection and rights for individuals. So, that's a lot of the focus on those two pieces of bills. We have other legislation that's focused on voting rights as well. But my broader concern when we're looking at what's happening right now, you don't really hear a coherent argument on the other side of why would we make it more difficult for someone to vote? It just doesn't make any sense
Well,
to
I
me.
remember before your time, Mario Cuomo in the 80s would say, why do we have to have only one day for voting? Why does it have to be at a polling place? If it snows in Messina, and you can't get out to the poll, why can't we have a roving mobile unit that would, come to your block, and you would, like the ice cream man would come to your
We know
block.
why, right?
Right? And then people would come
they don't want
out
more
and they
people
would
to
vote.
Yeah, but that's the reason
So-
why they don't want more people to vote.
When you say they, you mean the incumbents in general?
No,
Or you mean-
I think in large part the Senate Republicans have not demonstrated any desire or ability or rationale of why the opposition. It
But do
doesn't.
they have to? Is there a need for them to provide some rationalization for their opposition?
Well, I think if you're an elected official, there should be a rationale as to why you're denying moving forward on something that is good for people. It is really hard to convey to the everyday person that it is best for them to have limited amount of opportunities to vote. Right? I don't think you will find any person that will hear, well, you actually have it incredibly difficult scenario to vote. We would like to make it easier for you to vote, and someone is just saying no. I mean, yes, there is a responsibility, in my opinion, to be conveying the rationale on why you would be conveying
Why
it.
do you have the short title being the same on two bills?
Well, it's not why do I have that. I mean, I think in a large reason, it's just how the information is shared on the website itself.
No, you don't. Oh,
no.
that's done from a, okay.
Correct.
So then you're also on Government Operations Committee.
I am.
So how do you feel the government is operating? Is it operating well? Is it a greased wheel or?
It is operating well. There's always more efficiencies one can have. You know, GovOps, I'm on that committee predominantly because of the work we've been talking through, again, minority and women-owned businesses, and what are we doing to improve contracting so that more jobs can be created itself. Any entity can always run better. You know, I think we all can agree with that itself. I think the responsibility is how do we find more ways to ensure that government is running even better.
Do you have second job? Do you have outside income?
I do. You know, separate from the legislature, I do consulting, predominantly focused on helping large organizations that are focused on minority and women-owned businesses and/or working on helping individuals that are amplifying their national conferences.
And that was with, that's with Atlas?
With Atlas and individually, yes.
And what about Hilltop?
Not doing that any longer, no.
I don't see anything in your background about Hilltop, but I saw that there was an article about Hilltop. Did it never start to begin with when the article came out? Or?
Well, again, I think you have hit pieces that happen in politics, right? I was doing work with Hilltop. I was going to join them as a partner. I fully disclosed that work. I actually disclosed it ahead of time, earlier than I needed to.
Yeah.
It was on the same day that Dean Skelos was convicted, right?
Yeah.
So
Timing's everything.
Timing is everything, and I think a large reason that was what. But they're a great company to do great work. I think it was a blip on the screen in the grand scheme.
I do too. I just needed to ask about that. So, do you feel that the legislature is going to get out of this notion that they're, while it's a very small percentage that have been tossed into jail, but that there's more honesty in the legislature now? Do you feel that there's, do you think there needs to be more ethics reform? Can you legislate ethics?
I think media has not done a fair job of trying to convey the scenario. And when you communicate that there's a culture of corruption,
Right.
To me that's completely inappropriate. Have individuals made bad, terrible mistakes? Yes.
Well, you succeeded one of them.
Yes, and
Eric
so
Stevenson.
so there should be penalties when folks do these things.
Right.
If you break the law, absolutely. It is completely inappropriate for it to be conveyed that all politicians have something that they're doing wrong, and or for it to even be implied as such. Can you legislate ethics? No, I don't believe you can ever legislate ethics. I think you can ensure that there are better rules put in place so that there's more fairness that's happening, more transparency, which is what we worked on. We had a government work group created on transparency to make the process smoother, i.e. Have committee hearings that can be broadcast so people can be aware of that. That's how those changes can happen to make it a much fairer process for the general public.
Okay, and do you feel like, you seem to be a prestigious fundraiser? Do you have a lot of, do you do fundraising regularly, or are you doing better than most? I mean, you seem...
I think all of us have to raise funds to be able to be competitive in
necessary
elections.
evil, even...
I won't call it an evil. Again, I think again we got to be mindful of the words that we use.
People who hate fundraising and hate picking up the calls to ask
it's-
people for
well,
money call it an evil.
Yeah, I think you're doing it to just you're trying to communicate a message, and I think a lot of times you can have a good message and you may not be able to get that out there. So we've been fortunate about the support we've been able to gain from people.
I come from a family where if I got a 98 on a test, and my father would say, well, what happened to the 2%? You won your election with, 93% of the vote?
We did well.
You did well,
we did
93%.
well.
What happened to the other 7%? No, I'm just, it's a joke.
I guess they didn't know me as well.
But you're in a safe district. I mean, if whoever wins, if there is a primary, whoever wins the primary wins the general,
Yeah.
like the whole city of Albany. It's like that.
Yeah.
So why do all the fundraising? If you're safe and you
Well,
have
well,
that,
you're
you know.
getting.
Is it to keep away opponents, that they see that you have such a big bank account that they say?
No, it's about communicating your message to voters, and you know, we did a lot of that in a contested primary before, and you're always preparing. I mean, you're running every 2 years, so you know it's better to be a planner than not. You know, the rule is proper preparation prevents poor performance. So you know, being prepared allows you to be ready.
Wow, you got that down. That's good. No, that's very insightful. It really is, and that's why I ask you these questions, because I get a better answer from you than I do from most. So you know, don't take it the wrong way.
No, I
just,
appreciate
that. I wanted
Right,
to.
you know, Mike, there, you're doing great work, you have done, and you're a young person,
Thank
so
you.
actually, we're gonna be looking forward to some bigger and better things from you, because we expect a lot of things. I think you're articulate, you're intelligent, and you've accomplished a lot in your short
That's why I
span of
got him on the
years.
show.
There you
Because
go,
he's
you're good.
articulate, he's intelligent, he's good. You know,
Yeah,
Just trying to do a good thing.
and you're doing it, and that's good. Continued success.
Thank
really.
you.
very good.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Mark.